Jason Miller stared out the viewport as the diplomatic ship approached the Zeraxi homeworld. The planet glowed with an inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Even from orbit, he could see the crystalline cities that sparkled across the surface. "First time seeing Luxthera?" a voice asked behind him. Jason turned to see Ambassador Kimberly Walsh. Her gray-streaked hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform bore the Earth Diplomatic Corps' insignia. "Yes, ma'am," he replied. The reports didn't do it justice. Nothing ever does with. "The Zeraxi," she said with a small smile. "Remember your training. They can sense emotions, so keep yours in check." Jason nodded. As the ship's xenolinguist, he had studied the Zeraxi language and customs for 3 years. But no amount of training could prepare him for meeting actual telepathic aliens. "They requested you specifically," Walsh continued. "Your language skills impress them during the preliminary communications. Or they just want to study the new humans," Jason said. Walsh's expression turned serious. "Just be careful. The royal family is especially interested in you. That could be good for our mission or very dangerous." The shuttle ride to the surface was smooth. Jason watched the gleaming spires grow larger through the window. The buildings weren't built but grown, rising from the ground in perfect geometric patterns that somehow felt alive. When they landed, a group of tall, slender figures waited for them. The Zeraxi stood nearly 7 feet tall with skin that glowed with a soft blue light. They wore flowing robes embedded with crystals that amplified their natural luminescence. Jason followed Ambassador Walsh down the ramp. The air smelled like ozone and something sweet he couldn't identify. "Welcome to Luxthera," said the tallest Zeraxi in perfect English. "I am High Counselor Vorax. The Emperor awaits you in the Grand Hall." As they walked through the city, Jason noticed how the buildings seemed to respond to the Zeraxi passing by, glowing brighter or changing colors slightly. The streets were wide and curved in gentle arcs, with floating platforms carrying Zeraxi between the crystal towers. The royal palace dominated the city center, a massive structure that resembled a mountain of glass and light. Inside, the walls pulsed with soft colors that shifted in response to the emotions of those nearby. "The palace is alive," Vorax explained, noticing Jason's wonder. "It grew from the sacred crystals planted by our ancestors 10,000 years ago." They entered a vast chamber where dozens of Zeraxi nobles stood in concentric circles around a floating crystal throne. On it sat the Emperor, his skin glowing with intense white light that made Jason squint. "Approach," the Emperor commanded, his voice echoing strangely as if coming from multiple directions at once. The human delegation moved forward and bowed as they had been instructed. Jason kept his eyes down, trying to control his racing thoughts, knowing the telepathic aliens might sense them. "Rise and be welcomed," the Emperor said. "We are pleased to begin this new chapter between our peoples." As Jason straightened, he noticed a smaller throne to the Emperor's right. On it sat a female Zeraxi whose skin glowed with a softer violet light. Her eyes, completely silver without pupils, stared directly at him. "My daughter, Princess Illyria," the Emperor said, noticing Jason's gaze. The princess tilted her head slightly, and Jason felt a strange pressure at the edges of his mind, like fingers testing a locked door. Ambassador Walsh began her prepared speech about friendship and trade, but Jason barely heard her. The princess's stare intensified, and the pressure in his mind grew stronger. After the formal greetings, the delegation was led to a reception area where servants brought crystal goblets filled with glowing liquid. "It is safe for human consumption," Vorax assured them. "We have studied your physiology extensively." Jason sipped the drink, which tasted like honey and starlight if starlight had a flavor. As he mingled with the Zeraxi officials, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "Xenolinguist Miller," a melodic voice said behind him. He turned to find Princess Illyria standing much closer than Zeraxi usually preferred with outsiders. "Your Highness," he bowed, "your mind is different," she said, her head tilting again in that curious manner. "I cannot read it clearly." "Most humans are open books to us, but you ... She paused. "You're like a book written in faded ink." Jason swallowed hard. I wasn't aware I was different. Perhaps it is your language training, she suggested. Your neural pathways form new connections to understand our language. Before Jason could respond, Vorax appeared at the princess's side. Your Highness, the Emperor requests your presence, he said, giving Jason a suspicious look. After the princess left, Ambassador Walsh approached Jason. What did she want? She said my mind is different, harder to read. Walsh frowned. That could be a problem or an advantage. The Zeraxi respect what they don't immediately understand. Later. That evening, as the delegation settled into their quarters within the palace, a Zeraxi servant delivered a message to Jason. The princess requests your presence as her cultural liaison during your stay, the servant announced. It is a great honor. Ambassador Walsh overheard and pulled Jason aside after the servant left. This is unusual, she whispered. Royal family. Members rarely take personal interest in outsiders. Should I decline? Jason asked. Walsh thought for a moment. No, this could open doors for our negotiations. Just be careful. Remember why you're here. Jason nodded, but his thoughts drifted to his past. After losing his wife Olivia in a shuttle accident 3 years ago, he had thrown himself into his work, volunteering for the deepest space missions to escape his grief. Now he was farther from home than any human had been before, caught in the attention of an alien princess. That night, Jason dreamed of crystal spires and violet light. He woke with the lingering sensation that someone had been walking through his memories. The next morning, Princess Illyria was waiting for him in the palace gardens. I have many questions about Earth, she said without preamble, and I believe you have questions about us. I do, Your Highness, Jason admitted. Then we shall learn. From each other, she said, her skin glowing brighter. I have never had a human teacher before. As they walked among the strange crystalline plants, Jason couldn't help but notice how the garden responded to the princess, flowers turning to follow her movement like she was their son. Our people believe everything is connected, Illyria explained, seeing his fascination. These plants sense my royal bloodline. The same way I can sense the thoughts of my people. But not mine, Jason said. Illyria smiled, and her glow pulsed slightly brighter. Not yours, not yet. But that makes you far more interesting than you realize, Jason Miller. As she said his name, Jason felt that strange pressure in his mind again. And somewhere deep inside, something answered it with a pulse of its own. Over the next few weeks, Jason spent most of his days with Princess Illyria. Every morning, they met in the garden where she taught him about Zeraxi history. Every afternoon, he taught her about Earth cultures in the palace library. Your people have so many different ways of living, Illyria said one day as they looked at images of Earth cities. The Zeraxi all follow the same path. Not all humans agree on the right way to live, Jason explained. We see that as a strength, not a weakness. Illyria's glow dimmed slightly. My father says too many choices lead to chaos. Sometimes, Jason admitted, but they also lead to new ideas. The princess touched one of the images, a crowded street festival in New Orleans. These humans look happy. They are celebrating. Dancing, eating, enjoying life. Zeraxi do not dance, she said quietly. It would cause too many emotional waves for those nearby to sense. Jason noticed how her fingers lingered on the image. You want to know what it feels like, he guessed. Her silver eyes met his. I want to know what many human things feel like. During their lessons, Jason learned that Zeraxi royalty were different from ordinary citizens. The royal family underwent genetic modifications that enhanced their telepathic abilities, allowing them to bond with their people when they took the throne. The royal bond is sacred, Illyria explained as they walked through an ancient temple near the palace. When my father dies, I will bond with all Zeraxi. I will feel their needs, their pain, their joy. That sounds overwhelming, Jason said. It is why royals are forbidden from forming individual attachments, she continued. We cannot have divided loyalties. My duty is to all Zeraxi equally. Jason watched her trail her glowing fingers along the temple wall. You sound lonely. Illyria stopped walking. No one had ever said such a thing to her before. I have never been alone. There are always minds around me. Being surrounded isn't the same as being connected, Jason said softly. The princess stared at him for a long moment. How can someone who I cannot read understand me so well? One evening, Illyria took Jason to a hidden part of the palace and ancient observatory where the ceiling opened to reveal the twin suns setting and 3 moons rising. This was built by the first emperor, she explained. He believed understanding the stars would help him understand his people better. Did it work? Jason asked. No one knows. His writings from that time were lost. She sat on a crystal bench that glowed in response to her presence. Tell me about your wife. Jason froze. How did you know about Olivia? I heard Ambassador Walsh thinking about it. She worries you came here to escape your grief. Jason should have been angry at the invasion of privacy, but instead felt relief at speaking Olivia's name. She was a pilot. She died when her shuttle had a malfunction 3 years ago. You loved her very much. I did. And now you are alone, Illyria said, not as a question but as understanding. Like you, Jason replied. They sat in silence as the stars appeared. The distance between them on the bench seemed to shrink, though. Neither had moved. The next day, an alarm blared through the palace. Jason was rushed with other humans to a secure room while Zeraxi security forces ran past. What's happening? He asked a guard. Assassination attempt on the diplomatic team, the guard replied tersely. Through the window, Jason saw smoke rising from the human quarters. His heart raced as he worried about his colleagues. Suddenly, the door burst open and Princess Illyria rushed in, her glow pulsing erratically with stress. Jason, you are safe, she said, relief evident in her voice. What about the others? He asked. All accounted for. The explosive device was planted in an empty room. Just then, a second explosion rocked the building. The ceiling above them cracked, and without thinking, Jason pulled Illyria away from falling debris, shielding her with his body. When the dust settled, they were pressed together in a corner. Jason realized he was still holding her, his arms wrapped protectively around her slender form. You tried to protect me, she said, her silver eyes wide with surprise, even though my body is far more durable than yours. Jason slowly released her. Instinct, I guess. No Zeraxi would have done that, she said. They would have calculated the odds and determined I was not in real danger. Sometimes humans don't calculate, we just act. Later that night, after the culprits, a fringe group opposed to alien contact, were caught, Illyria came to Jason's new quarters. I need to show you something, she said, her voice low. Can you follow me without being seen? Jason nodded and followed her through dimly lit corridors, down spiral staircases, and finally through a hidden door that she opened by placing her glowing hand against the wall. They entered a vast underground chamber filled with ancient artifacts and glowing crystals. What is this place? Jason asked, his voice echoing. The Chamber of Ancestors. The telepathic field doesn't reach here because of the mineral composition. She touched a crystal that lit up the room more brightly. We can speak freely. No one can monitor our thoughts here. Why did you bring me here? Illyria moved closer to him. Because since the moment in the observatory, I have been thinking about what you said, about being surrounded but not connected. She reached out slowly and touched his face. Her fingers were warm, sending a tingling sensation across his skin. I am not supposed to want connections, she whispered. But I do. Jason knew he should step back. He was a diplomat. This could ruin everything the mission had worked for. But when he looked into her silver eyes, he couldn't move away. This is forbiddance, he said. Everything interesting about humans is forbiddance to us, she replied. Their first kiss was hesitant, 2 species discovering each other. Her skin glowed brighter where his hands touched her. In the weeks that followed, they met in secret in the ancient chamber. Illyria used her powers to hide their meetings from other telepaths, creating false memories of mundane conversations. During the day, they maintained a professional relationship. But at night, they explored a connection that crossed the boundaries between their species. If anyone discovers us, Jason said one night as they lay together on a bed of soft crystal. Moss, what would happen? I would be removed from the succession, she said, tracing patterns on his chest. You would be sent back to Earth, or worse, should we stop? Illyria's glow pulsed with emotion. Can you stop breathing just because someone tells you the air is forbidden? Jason pulled her closer. For the first time since Olivia died, he felt alive again. The weight of grief that had followed him across the galaxy was lifting. What neither of them noticed was how, when they touched, their heartbeats gradually synchronized. Or how sometimes, when they locked eyes, their glows pulsed in perfect unison. They didn't see the ancient prophecy inscribed on the chamber wall behind them, written in a Zaraxi dialect so old even Illyria couldn't read it. When stars cross, and souls merge, the old ways will end and new light will dawn. Jason woke with a start, his heart racing. He had dreamed he was floating in a sea of stars, but the stars were alive and singing to him in a language he almost understood. It was the third night in a row he'd had this dream. He got up and splashed. Water on his face. In the mirror, he noticed something strange, a faint glow under his skin, almost too subtle to see. He blinked and it was gone. Later that morning, during a meeting with the human delegation, Ambassador Walsh stopped mid-sentence and stared at him. Jason, are you feeling all right? She asked. Yes, why? You look different for a moment. She shook her head. Must be the light in here. Jason tried to focus on the meeting, but his thoughts kept drifting to Illyria. He could almost feel her presence elsewhere in the palace, like a warm spot in his mind. When they met that afternoon in the garden, Illyria looked troubled. What's wrong? Jason asked. I had a strange dream, she said. I was walking on a beach with gray sand and blue water. There were buildings made of wood and glass. I've never seen such a place. Jason felt a chill. That sounds like the lake. House where I grew up in Michigan. Their eyes met in shared confusion. And this morning during the Royal Council meeting, Illyria continued, I felt angry when Councillor Vorax mentioned restricting human access to our technology, but it wasn't my anger. It felt like yours. Jason took her hand. I think something is happening to us, something beyond just our relationship. That night they returned to the ancient chamber beneath the palace. Illyria brought old books written in classical Zaraxi. These contain knowledge about our telepathic abilities, she explained as she turned brittle pages. There must be an explanation. After hours of searching, she gasped. Jason, listen to this. When two souls join in physical and mental harmony, a rare bond may form that transcends the normal boundaries of telepathy. This soul bond allows thoughts, emotions, and even sensory experiences to be shared across any distance. Is that what's happening to us? Jason asked. I think so, but there's more. She continued reading. Such bonds were once common among royal Zaraxi partners, strengthening their rule. But as the practice of collective bonding with all citizens began, individual soul bonds were forbidden, as they could interfere with the collective connection. Jason moved closer to read over her shoulder. Does it say anything about bonds between different species? Illyria flipped through more pages. Here, a soul bond can only form between compatible minds. It has never been documented between Zaraxi and any other known species whose minds are too different to resonate properly. Well, it seems we're making history, Jason said with a small smile. Illyria didn't smile back. Jason, this is serious. If the Royal Council discovers our bond, they will see it as a threat to my future rule. Before Jason could respond, they heard footsteps approaching. They quickly hid the books and moved apart. The hidden door slid open and Councillor Vorax entered. His blue glow darkened when he saw them together. Princess, your father is asking for you, he said coldly. He would not expect to find you here a human. I was showing Ambassador. Miller our historical archives, Illyria said smoothly. He has expressed interest in our ancient culture. Vorax's eyes narrowed. Indeed. The human seems interested in many aspects of our culture that should remain private. After Illyria left with Vorax, Jason felt a strange emptiness as if part of himself had walked away. He tried to focus on the books they'd been reading, but the ancient Zeraxi language was too difficult without Illyria's help. The next day, news spread through the palace. The emperor had collapsed during a public ceremony. Jason didn't see Illyria for 3 days while she attended to her father. During those days, Jason experienced intense headaches and moments of unexplained sadness that didn't feel like his own emotions. At night, his dreams were filled with images of a glowing throne and crowds of expectant faces. When Illyria finally sent for him, they met in a small garden room where privacy was assured by thick crystal walls. "My father is dying," she said without preamble. "The doctors give him weeks at most." Jason moved to comfort her, but she stepped back. "We can't continue this, Jason," she said, her voice breaking. "The ascension ceremony is being prepared. I must be ready to take the throne and bond with my people." "What about our bond?" Jason asked. "It cannot exist alongside my duty." Her glow dimmed to almost nothing. "We must break it. Can it be broken?" Illyria nodded sadly. "The texts say distance and time will weaken it. You must return to Earth." "With your delegation." Jason felt as if she had struck him. "You want me to leave?" "I don't want it. But I must think of my people first." That night, alone in his quarters, Jason felt a pain unlike anything he'd experienced before. It wasn't physical, but something deeper, as if part of his soul was being torn away. Through their growing bond, he could feel Illyria's similar pain across the palace. The next morning, Ambassador Walsh informed the delegation that they would be departing in 3 days, much earlier than planned. "The Zeraxi government has requested we conclude our mission due to the Emperor's health," she explained. "They need to focus on the transition of power." Jason knew the real reason. Vorax was removing him from Luxthera before the bond could grow stronger. He tried to see Illyria again, but was told she was in seclusion, preparing for her ascension. Instead, Vorax came to his quarters. "You have formed an inappropriate attachment to our princess," the counselor said without greeting. "I don't know what you mean," Jason replied. "Do not insult my intelligence, human. I have served the royal family for 2 centuries. I know the signs of a forming bond." Vorax's glow pulsed with anger. "It is unprecedented with an alien, but not impossible, it seems. Will you tell the Emperor? He is too weak to be troubled with this. But understand this. If you try to see the princess again, I will have you removed from this planet immediately." Vorax stepped closer. "A soul bond with you would make her unfit to rule. It would destroy everything our society is built upon." After Vorax left, Jason paced his room, feeling trapped. Through the bond, he could sense Illyria's distress, though he couldn't see where she was or what was happening to her. That night he was woken by a sharp pain in his chest. He sat up gasping, somehow knowing it wasn't his pain but Illyria's. Something was wrong. Against all orders, Jason snuck out of his quarters and made his way to the royal wing of the palace. He used the service corridors Illyria had shown him, avoiding the guards. He found her in a ceremonial chamber, lying on a crystal altar surrounded by chanting priests. Her glow was flickering dangerously, like a light about to go out. When he entered the room, the priest turned in shock, but Illyria's eyes found his. Immediately, he felt a surge of relief through their bond. "What are you doing to her?" he demanded. "The purification ritual," one priest explained. "It will clear her mind of all individual connections, preparing her for the collective bond." "It's killing her," Jason said, moving to her side. The priest blocked his path. "The ritual has never harmed a royal before?" "She's different," Jason insisted. "We're different." Through their bond, Jason felt Illyria's silent plea. She hadn't wanted this ritual, but Vorax had insisted it was necessary after discovering their relationship. As guards rushed into the room, Jason made a decision. That would change 2 worlds forever. He pushed past the priest, reached Illyria, and took her hand. The moment they touched, a blinding light filled the chamber. Their bond, instead of breaking under the ritual's pressure, surged stronger than ever. And in that light, both Jason and Illyria saw a truth hidden for centuries. The soul bond wasn't a threat to her rule, it was meant to be its foundation. The light surrounding Jason and Illyria slowly faded, leaving everyone in the chamber stunned into silence. The guards who had rushed in stood frozen, their weapons half raised. The priests backed away, their faces showing a mixture of fear and awe. Jason helped Illyria sit up. Her glow had stabilized, no longer flickering dangerously, but now pulsing with a new rhythm that somehow matched his heartbeat. "What happened?" she whispered, though she could feel the answer through their bond. "I think we just proved the ritual was wrong," Jason said. Before they could say more, the chamber doors burst open again. Counselor Varax stormed in, followed by more guards. "Arrest the human," he ordered. "He has interfered with sacred preparations." The guards hesitated, looking uncertainly between Vorax and Illyria. "No," Illyria said, her voice stronger than before. She stood, still holding Jason's hand. "Counselor Vorax, you will explain why you ordered this ritual without my consent." "It was necessary, Your Highness. The human has corrupted your mind with this unnatural bond. You cannot rule with such a connection." "That is not for you to decide," she replied. A commotion at the door interrupted them. Ambassador Walsh pushed her way into the chamber, followed by Lisa Bennett, the human security chief. "What is going on here?" Walsh demanded. "We were told Jason Miller was being detained for violating diplomatic protocols." Vorax turned to her. "Your linguist has formed a forbidden bond with our princes. He must be removed from Luxthera immediately." Lisa Bennett moved closer to Jason. "No one's removing anyone without proper procedures," she said firmly. The tension in the room grew until a soft chime echoed through the palace. Everyone froze, recognizing the sound. "The Emperor," Illyria whispered, her face paling. They all rushed to the Emperor's chambers. The old Zaraxi lay on a bed of glowing crystals, his light dimmer than Jason had ever seen it. Royal physicians stood helplessly nearby. "Father," Illyria said, approaching him. The Emperor's eyes opened slowly. "Daughter, I felt a disturbance." "I'm sorry, Father. There was a ritual, and Jason, the human." The Emperor's gaze shifted to Jason. "Come closer." Jason approached cautiously, aware of Vorax's glare. "I see it now," the Emperor said, his voice barely audible. "The bond between you. It glows like twin stars." "Your Majesty," Vorax interjected, "the human bond will prevent the princess from forming the collective bond. She cannot rule with this distraction. Is that true?" The Emperor asked, looking at his daughter. "Or is that what we have been taught to believe?" Illyria looked surprised. "Father?" "Before I became Emperor, I too had a bond," he revealed, shocking everyone in the room. "With your mother? But I was told it must be severed for the good of our people." "I never knew," Illyria whispered. "It was kept secret. And when she died, part of me died too." The Emperor's glow flickered. "I have ruled for 2 centuries, but never with the strength I had when our bond was intact." Vorax stepped forward. "Your Majesty, these are dangerous ideas. The ancient laws have been interpreted by counselors like you for generations." The Emperor cut him off. "Perhaps not always correctly." A young Zaraxi female pushed through the crowd. Jason recognized her as Tella, a junior scientist from the archives. "Your Majesty," she said nervously, "I have been studying the oldest texts in the original language. The translations we use today may be flawed." "Speak," the Emperor commanded. "The earliest records suggest that the first rulers all had soul bonds with partners. The collective bond was meant to build upon this foundation, not replace it." Vorax scoffed. "Absurd, this girl knows nothing." "Let her finish," the Emperor said. Tella continued. "The texts say, 'From the strength of one bond comes the strength to bond with many.' It was only later that individual bonds were forbidden." "By whom?" Illyria asked. Tella hesitated, then looked at Vorax. "The records suggest it was the High Council of that time. They believed rulers were easier to influence without a bonded partner." The room fell silent. Through their bond, Jason could feel Illyria's mind, working, connecting pieces of history and tradition that suddenly made more sense. Before anyone could speak, the Emperor gasped, and his light dimmed further. The physicians rushed forward, but he waved them away. "There is no time," he said. "The succession cannot wait." He looked at his daughter. "Illyria, you must complete." The ascension now, while I can still transfer the crown's power to you. But father, trust your bond, he whispered. It will guide you. With those words, the Emperor's glow flickered one last time and then faded completely. A sound like crystal breaking echoed through the palace as the news of his death spread telepathically among all Zeraxi. Vorax immediately took charge. The ascension ceremony must be prepared, and the human must be removed before then. Ambassador Walsh stepped forward. As representative of Earth, I protest this treatment of a diplomatic envoy. Your protests mean nothing now, Vorax said. Guards, escort the humans to their ship. They will leave immediately. As guards moved toward them, Lisa Bennett positioned herself protectively near Jason. Wait, Illyria commanded. Her voice had changed, carrying a new authority that made everyone pause. I am now ruler of the Zeraxi. My first command is that no one touches the human delegates. Vorax turned to her. Your Highness, you are not yet crowned. The ceremony will proceed immediately, she finished for him. And Jason Miller will be present. That is against all tradition. Perhaps it is time for new traditions, Illyria said. She looked at Tella. Bring the original texts to the Grand Ceremonial Chamber. I want all Zeraxi to know the truth. An hour later, the Grand Ceremonial Chamber was filled with thousands of Zeraxi citizens. The human delegation stood to one side, watched closely by guards loyal to VO. Jason could feel Illyria's nervousness through their bond as she prepared behind a crystal screen. He sent her feelings of confidence and support, which she acknowledged with a warm pulse in return. The ceremony began with Vorax reciting the traditional laws of succession. When he reached the part about the ruler standing alone to receive the collective bond, Illyria stepped forward. I challenge this interpretation, she said clearly. Her voice carried through the vast chamber. Tella, show them the original text. Tella projected an image of ancient Zeraxi writing onto the crystal walls. This is the actual wording from our first rulers. It speaks not of isolation, but of foundation, a primary bond that supports all others. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Vorax tried to object, but Illyria continued. For centuries, we have been told that a soul bond would weaken a ruler. What if the opposite is true? She turned to the crowd. What if our greatest strength comes from connection, not isolation? She extended her hand. Jason Miller, come forward. Jason felt hundreds of eyes on him as he walked to Illyria's side. Vorax moved to block him. This is sacrilege, the counselor shouted. No alien has ever been part of the Ascension. And yet, Illyria said calmly, our bond exists. Would you have me deny reality? She turned to the ancient throne that sat on a raised platform. According to tradition, it would respond only to those of royal blood, glowing when the rightful heir sat upon it. Taking Jason's hand, Illyria approached the throne. The crowd watched in tense silence. What I do now, I do for the future of our people, she announced as she sat on the throne with Jason standing beside her, still holding her hand. The chamber fell completely silent. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the throne began to glow brighter than anyone had ever seen, its light spreading through the chamber in waves that touched every Zeraxi present. And as the light reached them, each citizen felt something new, not just the expected. Connection to their ruler, but a deeper understanding that flowed through the bond between Illyria and Jason, amplified rather than diminished by their connection. It was in that moment that everyone realized everything they had been taught about bonds was about to change. The light from the throne room spread throughout the entire city. Every crystal building in Luxthera glowed in response, creating a spectacle visible even from orbit. The human delegation watched in awe from the ceremonial chamber as Illyria completed the ascension ritual with Jason by her side. When the light finally faded, Illyria stood from the throne, her hand still firmly holding Jason's. Her glow had changed, becoming deeper and more vibrant, with subtle flecks of a color the Zeraxi had never seen before, a color that matched Jason's eyes. The bond is complete, she announced to the silent crowd. I am connected to all Zeraxi as tradition demands. She turned to look at Jason. But I am also connected to this human, which gives me something no ruler has had for centuries: balance. Vorax pushed forward, his glow dimmed with anger and confusion. This is unprecedented. The Council cannot accept. The Council will adapt, Illyria said firmly, as will all of us. Look around you, Counselor. Do you see any harm from what has happened here today? The Zeraxi citizens were indeed looking at each other in wonder. Through their telepathic connection to their new ruler, they could sense the strength of the bond between Illyria and Jason. Many were surprised to find not interference, but clarity in the collective bond, as if Jason's presence somehow focused Illyria's power rather than dividing it. I can feel all of you, Illyria told her people, your needs, your hopes, your fears. But through my bond with Jason, I also gain perspective. I see our people as others might see us, with fresh eyes and new ideas. Ambassador Walsh stepped forward. Your Highness, what does this mean for relations between our planets? It means a new beginning, Illyria replied. The human delegation will not be leaving today. Instead, I propose a permanent embassy and expanded cultural exchange. The human delegates looked at each other in surprise. This was far more than they had hoped to achieve from this mission. Tella approached with more ancient scrolls. Your Highness, I've found additional records. It seems the first contact between Zeraxi and another species was also marked by a bond, though it was hidden from history. Reveal everything, Illyria commanded. No more secrets. Our strength comes from truth, not tradition for its own sake. Over the next few days, the palace was transformed. The old council chambers were opened to a new group of advisors that included both Zeraxi citizens from all castes and several humans from the delegation. Vorax was not imprisoned for his deception, but was assigned to work with Tella, helping to correct centuries of mistranslated texts. Jason found himself in an unexpected position, neither fully human nor Zeraxi, but something in between. Through their bond, he could now understand the Zeraxi language without translation and could even sense the emotions of those closest to Illyria. One evening, a week after the ascension, Illyria took him to a private garden atop the palace's highest tower. I have something to show you, she said, leading him to a newly constructed area where earth plants grew alongside crystal Zeraxi flora. You built this? Jason asked, touching a rose that somehow thrived in the alien soil. For you. A piece of earth here on Luxthera. Illyria's glow pulsed with affection. The botanists say the plants are adapting to our environment in unexpected ways. Jason noticed that the roses had a faint glow of their own now, as if absorbing properties from the crystal soil. Like us, he said, adapting to each other. Illyria nodded. The council has been studying our bond. They say it's changing both of us on a cellular level. Is that dangerous? No, just unprecedented. She touched his face gently. Your skin has the faintest glow now, and I ... She held up her hand where tiny, almost invisible freckles had appeared, a human trait no Zeraxi had ever had. Through their bond, Jason could feel her wonder rather than concern at these changes. There's something else, she said, leading him to a crystal bench. The scientists have proposed a theory about why our bond was possible when no other human Zeraxi bond has formed. What's their theory? Your grief for Olivia. The neural pathways created by that deep emotional experience somehow made your mind compatible with ours, she squeezed his hand. Your greatest pain created the capacity for our connection. Jason sat quietly, absorbing this. The idea that his years of grief had prepared him for this new life felt like a gift from Olivia herself. A month later, the first joint human-Zeraxi settlement broke ground on a neutral planet halfway between their worlds. Jason stood with Illyria at the ceremony, watching as crystal buildings began to grow alongside traditional human structures. Ambassador Walsh approached them after the ceremony. The Earth government has a proposal for you both, she said. They want to create a new diplomatic position, a human Zeraxi liaison office with you two as its leaders. Both of us? Jason asked, surprised. Yes, they recognize that your bond makes you uniquely qualified to bridge our cultures, Walsh smiled. They're calling it the Bond Initiative. Later that night, as Jason and Illyria stood on the balcony of their new quarters in the settlement, They watched the twin moons of the neutral planet rise above the horizon. "Did you ever imagine this?" Jason asked. "When you first requested me as your cultural liaison?" Illyria's glow rippled with amusement. "I was only curious about why I couldn't read your thoughts. I never expected to share them instead. And now? Now I can't imagine ruling without our bond." She turned to face him. "The doctors confirmed something today. Something I've been sensing for weeks, but couldn't be sure of." Jason felt a flutter of excitement through their bond before she even spoke the words. "Our cellular changes are more extensive than anyone predicted," she said. "My body has adapted to yours in ways that were thought impossible." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I am carrying our child," Illyria said, her glow brightening with joy. "The first human Zeraxi child in history." Jason pulled her close, feeling their heartbeats synchronize as they always did now when they embraced. Through their bond, their shared emotions created a harmony that neither could have experienced alone. Wonder, joy, and love multiplied rather than divided between them. "From one bond, many," Jason said, quoting the ancient text. "And from many, a new future," Illyria finished. As they stood together under the alien stars, the glow of their bond illuminated more than just themselves. It cast light on a new path. Forward not just for them, but for both their species. What had begun as forbidden attraction had transformed into something neither world could have imagined. A princess had taken a lover, not knowing it would forge a soul bond. But that bond had done more than connect two people. It had connected two worlds, forever changing both in ways that were only beginning to unfold. Across the stars, both humans and Zeraxi looked to the new settlement and the glowing couple at its center, seeing not an end to old ways, but the dawn of something greater, a future built on connection rather than separation, on bonds freely chosen and openly celebrated. And in that future, anything was possible.